Einstein's secret fear, why he hated conformity. They expelled him from school for asking too many questions. They called him a troublemaker, a rebel, a failure. And Albert Einstein wouldn't have had it any other way. Because Einstein had a secret fear. A fear that haunted him his entire life. A fear that drove him almost every major decision he made. He was terrified of conformity. Not just mildly uncomfortable with it, genuinely terrified. And when you understand why, you'll see the world completely different. Today, I'm going to show you Einstein's hidden war against conformity, how it shaped his science, his politics, his personality, and most importantly, why his fear might be the most important warning for our generation. Let's revel. To understand Einstein's fear of conformity, you need to understand where it came from. He grew up in the late 19th century Germany, especially in Munich, under the Prussian education system. And that system wasn't designed for one purpose: to produce obedient soldiers and compliant workers. Einstein described his school as a barracks. The teachers were drill sergeants. Students sat in rigid rows, memorized facts by note, and were punished for questioning authority. Creativity was crushed. Curiosity was discouraged. The message was clear: confirm or fail. And Einstein couldn't do it. Physically couldn't. At age 15, he left the gymnasium, essentially expelled for his disruptive attitude. His teacher told him, "You will never amount to anything, Einstein." But here's what's crucial. Einstein didn't see this as his failure. He saw it as the system's failure. He wrote later, "It is, in fact, nothing short of a miracle that the modern methods of instruction have not yet entirely strangled the holy curiosity of inquiry." Think about that phrase, holy curiosity. Einstein saw curiosity as sacred, and he saw conformist education as blasphemy against it. This wasn't just teenage rebellion. This was a deep philosophical conviction that would define his entire life. Conformity kills the thing that makes humans special. Our ability to think independently, to question everything, to imagine what doesn't exist yet. The Prussian system wanted to produce identical minds. Einstein believed that identical minds were already dead. Here's something most people don't know. Einstein's greatest work, special relativity, the photoelectric effect, Brownian motion, E equals mc squared. All of it came when he was nobody. A patent clerk in Bern, Switzerland, working 6 days a week, examining other people's inventions. He couldn't get a university position. He'd been rejected from every academic job he applied for. And you know what? He later said, those were the best years of his life. And why? Because he was free. Free from the conformity of academic life. Free from having to please department heads, publishing the right journals, attend pointless meetings, play political games. Einstein wrote, "I'm a horse for a single harness, not cut out for tandem or teamwork. I have never belonged wholeheartedly to country or state, to my circle of friends, or even to my own family." That's not antisocial. That's anti-conformist. Einstein recognized that belonging always comes with a price. The price of conforming to the group's expectations, norms and beliefs. At the patent office, his job was to think about inventions for 8 hours, then go home, What he did in his free time was his business. So he used that time to overthrow 200 years of physics. Think about that irony. The greatest scientific revolution in the 20th century happened because a guy couldn't get a job in the system, because he was forced to work outside the conformist structures of academia. Here's the lesson Einstein would want you to learn. Sometimes being rejected by the system is the best thing that can happen to you, because it forces you to think for yourself instead of thinking like everyone else. But Einstein's fear went deeper than just educational or professional conformity. He was terrified of intellectual conformity, the tendency for everyone to think alike, to accept the same assumptions, to never question the consensus. In science, this manifests as paradigm lock. Everyone knows that Newtonian physics is correct. Everyone knows that space and time are absolute. Everyone knows that atoms are too small to observe directly. And Einstein questioned all of it. He wrote, "Unthinking respect for authority is the greatest enemy of truth." This wasn't just a catchy quote. This was his operating principle. He genuinely believed that the moment you stop questioning authority, whether that's Newton or the Bible or our professors or common sense, you stop thinking. And when you stop thinking, you become dangerous. Not because you're evil, but because you become a tool for whoever controls the narrative, whoever defines normal, whoever decides what questions are acceptable to ask. Einstein saw this danger everywhere. In science, where researchers refused to consider ideas that contradicted established theories. In politics, where citizens accepted propaganda without critical thought. In culture, where people lived according to scripts written by others. He called it intellectual cowardice, and he saw it as worse than ignorance, because ignorance can be fixed with information, but intellectual cowardice, the refusal to think independently, even when you have the capacity to, that's a choice to surrender your mind. Here's what's chilling. Einstein would look at our world today, where algorithms feed us information that confirms what we already believe, where social media rewards conformity and punishes dissent, where people are terrified to express unpopular opinions. And he'd say, "This is my nightmare realized." Einstein's anti-conformism wasn't limited to science. It extended powerfully into politics. And this is where his courage becomes almost shocking. In 1914, World War I broke out, and 93 prominent German intellectuals, scientists, artists, professors signed a manifesto supporting Germany's war effort and denying German atrocities in Belgium. Einstein was one of only 4 people in Germany who signed a counter-manifesto calling for peace. 4 out of the entire German intellectual elite. Think about the courage that required. His friends signed the pro-war manifesto, his colleagues, his mentors, and Einstein said, "No, this is wrong, and I won't pretend otherwise just because everyone else is." He could have stayed silent. He could have said, "I'm just a scientist, politics isn't my domain." But Einstein believed that intelligent people who remain silent during moral crisis are complicit. He wrote, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything." Later, in the 1950s, during the McCarthy era in America, Einstein watched as people were blacklisted, careers destroyed, lives ruined, all because they held unpopular political views or refused to conform to anti-communist hysteria. And Einstein spoke out, publicly, repeatedly. He wrote an open letter to a teacher who'd been suspended by a congressional committee. If enough people are ready to take this grave step, they will be successful. If not, then the intellectuals of this country deserve nothing better than the slavery which is intended for them. He was essentially calling for civil disobedience, for mass refusal to cooperate with conformists, with Hans. And this from a man who'd already fled Nazi Germany, who knew exactly what political conformity could lead to. Here's what Einstein understood that most people don't. Totalitarianism doesn't start with jackboots and concentration camps. It starts with conformity, with people saying, I'd better not rock this boat, with intelligent people staying silent because speaking up is socially costly. The lesson? Conformity isn't just personally limiting, it's politically dangerous, because a society of conformists can be led anywhere, including into darkness. But here's what nobody talks about. Einstein's anti-conformism came at a tremendous personal cost. He was lonely, profoundly lonely. He wrote to a friend, "My political idea is democracy, but I know that few men are really suited for complete independence of thought and action. Nevertheless, this ideal must be held before our eyes, even if it is really realized." Notice that admission. Few men are really suited for complete independence. Einstein understood that most people crave belonging more than they crave truth. And he wasn't judging them, he was just recognizing reality. But he also knew he wasn't one of those people. He couldn't sacrifice truth for belonging. He couldn't confirm, even when confirming would have made his life easier. His marriages suffered. His first wife, Mileva, wanted a conventional husband. Einstein wanted to think about space-time. His relationship with his children was strained. His son, Hans Albert, said, "He was a stranger to us. My father was always lost in thought." His friendships were complicated. He'd push away people who go too close. He once wrote, "I'm truly a lone traveler and have never belonged to my country, my home, my friends, or even my immediate family with my whole heart." That's not a boast, that's a confession of pain. Einstein paid a price for his nonconformity, and he knew it. But here's the crucial part. He thought it was worth it. He wrote, "I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." Why delicious? Because solitude was the price of intellectual freedom, and Einstein valued intellectual freedom more than almost anything else. The question for us is, are you willing to pay that price? Because here's the truth. If you genuinely refuse to conform, you will be lonely sometimes. You will be misunderstood. You will be criticized. People will call you difficult, arrogant, stubborn. Einstein's message is, pay the price anyway, because the alternative, surrendering your mind to the crowd, costs far more in the long run. Now let's talk about why Einstein's fear of conformity matters for creativity, because this is where his insights become immediately practical. Einstein believed that conformity and creativity were fundamentally incompatible. He said, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds." But let's dig deeper into why. When you conform, you accept existing frameworks. You think inside the box, not because the box is real, but because everyone agrees to pretend it is. You optimize within existing paradigms instead of questioning the paradigm themselves. Innovation doesn't come from optimization, it comes from recompilation. And reconciliation requires you to ignore what everyone knows to be true. Think about Einstein's thought experiments. What would I see if I rode on a beam of light? Every physicist of this time would say, that's a stupid question. Light doesn't work that way. You can't ride on light. But Einstein asked it anyway. And by asking a stupid question, he discovered that time is relative. Here's what's happening in your life right now. You have creative ideas that you're censoring before they even fully form. Well, why? Because they don't fit. They're weird. They're not what people expect. They might fail. They might make you look foolish. Einstein would say, those are exactly the ideas you should pursue, because if your ideas are comfortable, if they fit nearly into existing categories, if everyone immediately understands them, they're not creative. They're just recombinations of what already exists. Real creativity looks crazy at first. Einstein's relativity looked crazy. Quantum mechanics looked crazy. Every genuinely new idea looks crazy because it contradicts the consensus reality. So here's Einstein's challenge to you. What idea are you not pursuing because it doesn't conform? What project are you abandoning because it's not normal? What career path are you avoiding because people would judge you? That thing, that's probably exactly what you should be doing. Einstein died in 1955, but his fear for conformity is more relevant now than ever, because we've built a world that's perfectly designed to produce conformists. Social media rewards conformity. Post the right opinion, get likes. Post the wrong opinion, get cancelled. The algorithm shows you content that confirms your existing beliefs and hides content that challenges them. Education still rewards conformity. Standardized tests, multiple choice questions, one right answer, sit still, follow instructions. Don't question the curriculum. Corporate life rewards conformity. Dress codes, office hours, performance reviews based on how well you fit the culture. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Einstein would look at all this and he'd be horrified, because what he've created is a global system for producing identical thinking. We call it shared reality or cultural unity or being on the same page. Einstein would call it intellectual death. But here's what gives me hope, and what hit Einstein hope. The system keeps producing glitches. People who can't or won't confirm. People who ask the wrong questions. People who imagine differently. You might be one of those glitches. You might be someone who feels like you don't quite fit. Like you see things differently. Like there's something wrong with you because you can't just accept what everyone else accepts. Einstein's message to you is, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, you're awake. And the world desperately needs awake people right now, because every major problem we face, climate change, political polarization, technological disruption, meaning crisis, these can't be solved by conformist thinking. They require the kind of radical reconciliation that Einstein specialized in. So how we do actually resist conformity? Einstein's life gives us a blueprint. First, question everything. especially what everyone knows. And someone says, that's just how it is. Here there is an invitation to investigate why. Most social rules are arbitrary. Most intellectual boundaries are imaginary. Test them. Second, cultivate solitude. Conformity happens in groups. Original thinking happens alone. Einstein took long walks. He played violin by himself. He stared out the window for hours. Make time for solitude, for boredom, for your mind to wander away from the crowd. Third, be willing to be wrong. Conformity feels safe because everyone's wrong together. Nonconformity is scary because you might be wrong alone. But Einstein knew, being wrong alone is how you eventually become right alone. And being right alone is how breakthroughs happen. Fourth, choose courage over comfort. Every single day, you'll face moments where you can either say what you really think or say what people want to hear. Einstein chose courage, not because he was fearless, but because he valued truth more than approval. Fifth, find your people, but don't conform to them either. Einstein had friends who shared his values, but he never joined their groupthink. Even among nonconformists, maintain your independence. Your loyalty is to truth, not to any tribe. Einstein's secret fear wasn't irrational. He understood that conformity is the death of everything that makes us human. Our creativity, our morality, our capacity for growth. He once wrote, "Few people are capable of expressing with equanimity opinions which differ from the prejudices of their social environment. Most people are even incapable of forming such opinions." That's the tragedy. Not that people conform, but that most people never even realize they're conforming. They think their opinions are their own, not recognizing they're just echoing the consensus of their tribe. But you're watching this video, which means you're already questioning, already wondering, already feeling the tension between who you are and who the world wants you to be. Einstein's message is simple. Be yourself, think for yourself, stand alone if you have to. Because a life of conformity isn't really a life. It's just an extended sleep. And the world doesn't need more people sleepwalking through life. It needs people who are awake, people who question, people who imagine, people who have the courage to be different. Einstein was one of those people. And his legacy isn't just relativity or E equals mc squared. It's the example of a life lived in defiance of conformity, a life that proves that one person thinking independently can change the world. So here's my challenge. This week, do one thing that doesn't conform. Ask one question you're not supposed to ask. Express one opinion that makes people uncomfortable. Pursue one idea that seems crazy. Not for the sake of being contrarian, but for the sake of being true. Because Einstein's secret wasn't that he was smarter than everyone else. It's that he was braver, brave enough to think his own thoughts. And that changed everything. If this video inspired you to think differently, to question more, to conform less, subscribe to Einstein's Mind. We're building a community of independent thinkers who refuse to surrender their minds to the crowd. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, stay free.